Hi, I'm Jeff Martin. A few years ago, I got a vision, and almost everything I do now is connected to that vision. It's about how illiteracy is ruining lives and destroying our country, and about how people of faith, church people, could be the solution. People of faith, while we're imperfect, have always tried to have a huge impact at home and all around the world. And when we see illiteracy's relationships to the problems of homelessness, hunger, incarceration, addiction, sex trafficking, foster care, we may discover that literacy is the most essential issue of all because it helps prevent those other problems, and it's hopeful. Before I tell you about Children's Literacy Project, let me tell you how I got here. I've been married to the love of my life for 43 years. I have 3 adult children, and I've got 6 grandchildren who I love more than anything and pray for every day.
You're blocking the show.
Growing up, I struggled in school. In my family, I was the dumb kid, something I think a lot of kids feel. I had a hard time with reading and writing, but ultimately, I figured it out. I guess you could say I was one of the lucky ones. For work, I fell into creating and managing media projects. Eventually, I found the career success I thought I always wanted running a large media company where I helped companies sell, well, whatever they asked us to sell. But that's when everything started to change. I left that job and I started volunteering more at my church. And one day, I got roped into helping with this big cleanup project at an inner city high school. It was amazing. So amazing, I had to do something about it. I thought, this story could change America. So since I was a media guy, I decided to tell that story, so we made a movie about it. The idea of church-school partnerships spread across Portland until 300 schools had a church helping them out. Then our film caught the attention of the White House and the Department of Education, and faith leaders. Church-school partnerships sprung up everywhere, all across the country. It got so big we couldn't even count it. As cool as it was, at the end of the day, we weren't really changing that much, at least not in ways that were lasting. And many of the problems we worked on returned the next year. I became obsessed with the question, how can we make lasting change? How can we end poverty in these places? Instead of giving kids prettier schools, I wanted to give them better lives. All these churches were serving schools, but the bottom line is something was still not working. Kids are still falling through the cracks. We're putting in hundreds of thousands of hours and millions of dollars, and we're failing our most vulnerable kids. Our leaders have said it's a priority.
Our goals are clear.
The federal government will invest in
offering our children an outstanding education
to join the ladder of American success.
The numbers are bad. 43 million adults are functionally illiterate. 40% of our most disadvantaged kids can't read. 1.2 million kids drop out every year. Those numbers are before COVID. And poor kids are 19 times more likely to drop out than middle-class kids. Here are some more numbers. 67% of 4th graders who are not reading at grade level will end up in prison or chronically on welfare. 70% of all people in prison are functionally illiterate. And girls who can't read are 6 times more likely to get pregnant as teenagers. Conversely, if a child is reading well by the 3rd grade, 89% of them will graduate high school, regardless of race, class, gender, zip code, or quality of their home life. Research shows that nothing creates opportunity and optimism in a young person more than a successful education. And we know that education begins with simply learning to read. Kids can't teach themselves to read. They learn to read from other people. And if they don't have a parent to teach them, then someone else has to. We discovered that when it comes to learning to read, we didn't need more buildings, we didn't need more research, we didn't need another education philosophy. What we needed was more volunteers. So what have we spent the last decade doing? So we went back to work. We started traveling and learning the best practices of literacy volunteerism in places like Detroit, Memphis, and Fort Worth, meeting amazing people who participate in local literacy efforts. This guy's a retired coach. This kid's a senior in high school. This lady's a pastor. This guy works on roofs. She's a widow. He's a barber. And that's my wife. She's been reading to kids for a decade. And we're media people. So everywhere we went, we made short films that helped generate awareness and recruit more volunteers to great success.
The city of Fort Worth has made a demand and appeal to make a difference in a whole generation of lives. And who better to lead that change than a church that's all about transforming lives?
And Jesus is just waiting on us to link our churches up, to link our efforts up, so that we can pull in these kids who need to learn how to read. If we were to put our efforts together, I believe we could turn Memphis, Shelby County, back to where it needs to be, with kids getting educated, kids learning how to read, and taking kids out of prison and putting them into college.
If I had a message, we have a chance to actually change a broken system. And the broken education system is the quintessential definition of injustice. And if God says, I love justice, then the churches need to step into the injustice and make a difference in this broken education system.
Then we discovered that right across the Columbia River from us in Vancouver, Washington, they didn't have a Reading Buddy program at all, so we helped them build one. Soon after that, we discovered that small towns around Oregon lacked books for their marginalized kids, so with the help of a few influential friends, we distributed books. Lots of books, almost 100,000 so far. And as great as all that is, it doesn't scratch the surface of illiteracy in our country. But here's the thing. We, the Children's Literacy Project, we have a huge vision. What if churches took on illiteracy like they took on church school partnerships? Could people of faith, all faiths, see the impact of loving our most at-risk children? Reading leads to education. Education prevents poverty, incarceration, teen pregnancy, and it leads to a more healthy life. We want people of faith everywhere to rally to the cause and become a reading buddy and learn what it's like to sit with an under-resourced child and really get to know their neighbor. So how do we do that? Well, I'm a media guy. So we're making a new film called Sentence and hope to also take that to the White House.
Study after study show that at-risk kids who do not read at grade level by 9 years old are destined to a lifetime of struggle.
Skill.
If you don't know how to read, it feeds into poverty.
How are you going to get a job if you can't even read?
It creates a generational cycle.
The stakes are high. The stakes is life and death.
Soon we'll take that film, the lessons we have learned, and the resources we've created to our friends across the country to help them expand their great work at helping kids. And then, and maybe more importantly, we will help open up movements in places we haven't gotten to yet. Big cities and small towns in every corner of the country. I promise, wherever you live, there's a child nearby that needs your help. Rich or poor, the most unlikely kids could use a reading buddy. Lord knows I needed help. Jesus said to love your neighbor, and churches everywhere want to make lasting change. You don't need any special training to change the life of a child. All you need is a little time and a little love, and you'll change a child's life forever. You might even change your own life.